Could this be Cedar Point's newest expansion area? Well, that's what we're going to talk about right now. I hope you're ready and excited. Let's go. What's up, cool people? Today we are talking about one particular place that I think Cedar Point is definitely planning to expand into, and there has been some new developments that have just come out over the last couple of days talking about it. So let's find out more about this particular area, and I want to hear from you guys down in the comments what you guys think might be happening here. I have my ideas, but let's find out from you guys too. And anyway, let's go. All right, recently Cedar Point has bought a brand new piece of property off of Cleveland Road in Sandusky, and with that property they now are going to be moving their HR building into Sandusky proper, rather than on the island. And I believe this is to make quite a bit more space for Cedar Point. Now, I think Cedar Point had planned all of this really before the pandemic, and then kind of put a halt to it during the pandemic, and then Top Thrill Dragster had this massive thing that happened where someone was struck by a piece that flew off of it, and with that they just kind of scrapped their plans. But I think things are coming together for Cedar Point, Cedar Fair, and now Six Flags, and I have a feeling that now they're trying to kind of get back on track with what their plans had been before. It seems to me that Cedar Point is kind of doing something every 4 years. That's kind of been their way now. Now, obviously, 2020 kind of changed that a little bit, but bigger developments happen every 4 years, and then you have maybe some smaller things that happen here or there in between. So, we've got this massive space of land that I've been considering as a potential place for Cedar Point expansion for quite a while. Actually, in on the very last day at Cedar Point, but in one of the videos that's going to come out very late this winter, and I'll include a clip of it here, I actually pointed from Iron Dragon across to the empty space of land where there used to be dorms for people to live in who were workers at Cedar Point. Those dorms were like fire hazards and very dangerous and very old, and they were finally just demolished. But as soon as they demolished it, they've done nothing with that plot of land. Right over there, in that big empty area of dirt over there. That's where I would love if they would make a stage over there instead. Reroute that road, give a little bit more space. And I've been wondering and assuming that they were going to be doing something with it. It's kind of in between the area of Famous Dave's and Iron Dragon / the Celebration stage. All that area has just tons of space in it for them to be able to do some sort of expansion, which I think would be really, really cool. And there's definitely a ton of space there for them to do with this. So anyway, let's talk about what might be happening, what my predictions are, and like I said, please tell me down below what your predictions are for this plot of land, what might be happening, and what could go into that area. So that entire area is just a massive, really, they've made it look like a parking lot now, which I think is kind of funny. I think they maybe used it for some overflow this year, but I never drove past it or saw if people were parked there or anything like that. But they're not like making an official parking space or parking area there, but they do have parking along the perimeter. Now, some of that parking may be needed for the marina. I'm not entirely sure if it's necessary or not, but that parking is there. So it could be that has to be there for having enough parking for the marina area. So I'm not going to assume that they're going to do anything with that. But right now, the road kind of veers off from being right along the coast and then comes in towards Cedar Point. And that's why you have this wall right there next to the celebration stage. And that wall area is where right now they do a lot of food trucks and things like that. but there's definitely a large amount of space in that area. It's been unoccupied for quite a while. And then that road kind of veers back out and then continues on its normal course. I am wondering if what's going to happen is the road is going to go right next to where the parking is, or it's going to take over the parking area that's currently there, so that you just have a road that really goes right along the coast and continues very far out. Now, I'm going to assume next to the parking area. That way they can continue to keep all the parking that they need. I don't think Cedar Point, I don't think the peninsula itself is very conducive to doing like a parking garage kind of a situation. Otherwise, I think it would have been done by now. But even if it is, parking garages are very expensive to maintain, and I can imagine during the winter, especially with the heavy snow that Cedar Point gets, that a parking garage would be really, really hard to continue to keep up with those kinds of weather conditions. And then they've gotten rid of the HR building. Now, the HR building is actually a really small building, and I kind of go, why do they need to move it? Apart from maybe needing to expand HR, which they could do, but they also could have that space for the road to go through. Now, right next to that HR building and right in front of where the famous Dave's Pier is, there is a little roundabout where you can pull up your car and you can get things in and out, especially for people on the marina. And I think the road could easily come into that little roundabout. So you could have two roads that kind of, actually three roads that all kind of converge at that area, or converge at that area. Converge, I don't think is the right word I want. And then they'll get rid of the HR building to allow space for that road to come through, for them to be able to build that road, and then for them to put more things inside of the park, because now you could take the boundary of Cedar Point and you could put that wall out substantially further and allow more things to be happening in that area. And here are my thoughts with that area, not to mention what could potentially happen. I could totally see that area becoming themed as like a superhero area, especially with the addition of Six Flags. I'd love to see something that's really fun in that way. And here's the thing with the DC universe. The DC universe appeals to both kids and to adults, and I'd love to be able to see more stuff happen in that way that appeals to both kids and adults. You've already got some very kid-friendly rides in that area, in the Millennium Midway. So Millennium Midway could easily have like Millennium is already a 48-inch ride. Same thing with Iron Dragon, 48-inch ride. And I'd love to be able to see another ride that could be a more 48-inch ride that would allow for bigger kids to come in and do some fun things, and also to change where the celebration stage is so that you have even more space for people to be able to watch. Now, part of the reason why I think the celebration stage is as popular as it is that it attracts people who are walking through. So I don't think Cedar Point should lose that ability for people to stop and watch a show. But I do think Cedar Point needs, let me emphasize that again, needs to reroute where people can walk so that you don't have as much of a blockage of the walkway when you're having these massive shows and stuff like that. So what I think would be really cool is to have 3 different large sections of a stadium seating that can happen, kind of like they already have. They already have had those 3 different sections, and those 3 different sections can allow people to sit up. They could be more permanent, and it could be a nice little area. But in between each of those 3 sections, you have an area that sets right off of the pathway that would allow people to stop and see the shows. So you can still hear the shows happening. You can still see that there's something going on. Make eye contact with the show while you're walking by, and then you can stop and go see a massive thing that's happening. Now, you maybe wouldn't have the best view, but maybe then that encourages you to come a little bit earlier for the next show. And then you can actually have seating along in the front, where you could never have seating in front of the celebration stage at this point. There's no way you could have like anything going on there. So that could be really cool. It could give you a bit of a, like, you could even have the floor slope just a little bit, especially if it's sloping away from the park. That would even allow better for drainage to drain back into the lake, which could be really, really cool. Like these could all happen. Even some drainage tunnels or pipes could be routed to go straight into the lake underneath the road that they would have to build. There'd just be several options that could really allow for some cool possibilities. And that area is way, way bigger than what the celebration stage currently has right now. Which is great because it doesn't need that much more space than what it currently has. It just needs to get the space off of the pathway. So if we could reroute that, have a nice little area, kind of a la the Charlie Brown pavilion. Was it called the pavilion? I don't know what it was called. But kind of a la that, but looking in the opposite direction, looking toward the lake, and even looking, maybe even getting a little bit of a view, a little bit of a peek of downtown Sandusky. That could be really cool. Now, of course, I love the shows, and I think that would be really cool, but that also doesn't need to take up a massive, massive amount of space. There could be enough room to have maybe a little bit of a backstage area. That way people performing in that venue would not even need to walk into the main pathways in order to get in and out. You could actually enter and exit from the back, as long as that's allowable by Cedar Point standards. I don't know if it is or not. But it would give plenty of space, especially to get things away from the walkway and to allow, especially during Halloween weekends, for less congestion along the main pathways. On top of that, the big thing, obviously, a big thing is not a new performance venue. I love live entertainment, and I wish it was. I wish it was a thing that everybody was just clamoring for. But they're not like, that's not going to make news. You know, news is not going to be like, wow, yeah, a new performance venue. No, what they are going to want is a brand new roller coaster. And I think there is plenty of space along this property to add that new roller coaster, a new state-of-the-art roller coaster into that area. So I'd love to see all of that extra area, including also the bathrooms and even into the line, or the early part of the line for Millennium Force. You could have that entire area just completely devoted to a brand new coaster that could easily go in that entire section. There are bathrooms there. Those bathrooms could easily be rerouted into another part of the park, probably over by Valraven. Valraven would have plenty of space. The later section of Valraven, the part of Valraven that's close to the celebration stage right now. You have that entire brick laid area that looks onto Valraven. It actually has windows there. Right next to that, there used to be a beer garden or a beer tent right there, and there also, there's actually a tent, and there was an official brick and mortar building that both had beer in them. So easily bathrooms could be put into that space. With all of that empty space there, you could get rid of that entire tower of the control tower for the celebration stage, get rid of that entirely, and once again, give more space there for a roller coaster to be able to come in and have just this massive area that once again looks out onto the lake, looks out onto Sandusky itself, and would really be a statement piece for Cedar Point. I think that could be really awesome. So let me know what you guys think. Is this something that you think could be really cool? I think a new performance venue and a new roller coaster could be amazing. I wouldn't expect this right away, but I also even wonder if where the celebration stage is currently, if that could be a great place for kind of a hybrid water coaster to go in, especially one where it just kind of lifts you up and then drops you into a puddle of water to allow that to happen, and then go back up, and then you go through it again. Now, I've seen people say that DC is not a great option because it's just kind of an overused IP, and I agree with that as it has currently been done. Six Flags, I think, has done a very terrible job because they've not really done anything with it. There's not been great theming. It's just been, we're going to theme this coaster to Wonder Woman. And that's all it is. There's no theming that's actually added to it. It's just a golden coaster called Wonder Woman. That's not something that I'm encouraging. I'm encouraging like a Universal-esque, the pathways are all redone in a comic strip kind of a way, and you have all of this crazy, fun, colorful, exciting kind of a place to walk through. You have to do it in the same way that even the boardwalk has been done this year, which isn't the most fantastic, crazy, extensive theming ever, but at least it immerses you in a certain concept. And that's exactly what I would be looking for with that. But maybe even more. I mean, if you could go more Universal-esque, then that would definitely be the preferable thing to me anyway. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments. I'd love to hear from you guys down there. Every once in a while, there's something that pops up in my mentions where I'm just like, okay, no, we have to talk about this. I think this could be a really cool option, and it's something I've been hoping for a long time for Cedar Point to expand even more than what they have been. I know they've been a little bit on a halt recently, but I think we're at the end of that halt at this point, especially given all the news that's happened. So anyway, like I said, let me know what you guys think. Press that subscribe button and press that like button too. Pressing the subscribe button makes you cool people, because of course you're cool people. So let's go. Thank you guys so much for hanging out, and let's go. Hey, thanks for watching. I release theme park related videos at least a couple times a week, so press that subscribe button if you made it this far. Also, check out similar videos in the playlist to the right or find my newest video to the left. Thanks again, and let's go!